Breaking news out of Washington, D.C. In a stunning and historic decision, the United States Supreme Court has ruled unanimously, 9-0, on a case that directly connects two of the nation's most debated constitutional protections, the Second Amendment, which guarantees the right to bear arms, and the Fourth Amendment, which shields citizens from unlawful searches and seizures. Tonight, we take a closer look at what this decision means, how it came about, and why legal experts are calling it one of the most important constitutional rulings of the decade. The origins of this case trace back to a small suburban neighborhood 2 years ago. Police officers, responding to what they described as a public safety concern, entered a private home without a warrant. Inside, they discovered several firearms. The homeowner, a military veteran, insisted that the guns were legally owned, properly registered, and kept securely. But the real issue wasn't the firearms themselves. It was how they were found. The search had been conducted without judicial approval, and without what most would consider urgent or exceptional circumstances. This incident quickly escalated into a constitutional battle. Supporters of the homeowner argued that two fundamental rights were at stake. First, the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, and second, the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches. The government, meanwhile, argued that the officers had acted in the interest of public safety and that exceptions to the warrant requirement should apply. This clash of principles eventually made its way through lower courts and finally to the highest court in the land, the United States Supreme Court. In April of this year, the case was heard before the 9 justices. On one side, attorneys for the government stressed that police must be given discretion when responding to potential threats. They warned that limiting this authority could endanger communities and prevent officers from acting swiftly in emergencies. On the other side, lawyers for the defense painted a very different picture. They argued that if exceptions were allowed to swallow the rule, the Fourth Amendment would become meaningless. They reminded the court that the framers of the Constitution placed strong limits on government intrusion precisely to prevent abuses of power. The questioning from the justices was pointed, sharp, and at times skeptical of the government's claims. Justice Neil Gorsuch asked whether granting such exceptions would essentially give law enforcement a blank check to enter homes without oversight. Justice Sonia Sotomayor pressed the government attorney on where the line would be drawn. If public safety is the only justification, then what stops the government from invoking it in every case? Observers inside the courtroom described a rare sense of unity among the justices. Liberal and conservative alike seemed troubled by the broadness of the government's argument. Then, just days ago, the ruling was announced. In a 9-0 decision, the court sided with the homeowner. Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the court, declared, "The rights enshrined in the Constitution are not conditional. The government may not override the protections of the Fourth Amendment by vague appeals to public safety, nor diminish the individual right guaranteed by the Second." The ruling reaffirmed that citizens not only retain their right to bear arms, but also their right to be secure in their homes, free from government intrusion without proper cause. Legal scholars say the unanimity of the decision is especially striking. In an era when the court is often divided along ideological lines, a 9-0 ruling sends a powerful message that constitutional protections are not partisan, they are foundational. Public reaction: supporters of gun rights cheer. Civil liberties groups celebrate privacy protection. Critics: some law enforcement argue it may make policing harder. Politicians respond with fiery statements. Media headlines explode. A double victory for personal freedoms. Historians note that this ruling joins a short list of unanimous Supreme Court decisions that profoundly shaped American law. Cases like Brown v. Board of Education in 1954, which ended school segregation, or United States v. Nixon in 1974, which forced the release of the Watergate tapes, were also decided unanimously. By aligning across ideological boundaries, the justices have strengthened the weight of their message. This case will likely be taught in law schools of generations, not just for its outcome, but for the clarity with which it defends two of America's most cherished freedoms. As the dust settles, one fact is clear. The court has drawn a bright line protecting constitutional rights at a time when debates over guns and privacy dominate American life. The ruling reminds us that the Constitution was designed to endure moments of crisis, not to be set aside in them. What do you think of the Supreme Court's decision? Did the justices strike the right balance between liberty and security? We invite you to share your thoughts below. And for more in-depth coverage of this and other historic events, stay with us. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story.